Hey, and thanks for being on the podcast. We've got Nick, who needs no introduction, but I'm going to go ahead and let Nick introduce himself and tell you guys what he does and what he's about.
Thanks so much, Jason. So I'm Nick Eubanks. I'm a general partner at Super Limited Co., which is a venture studio based here in a woman-owned venture studio based here in Philadelphia. It's important to like to call out that my wife is the actual majority shareholder, so I only own 49%. And probably best known, at least for folks in the digital marketing or SEO space, from having a silly blog back in the day about SEO, and then starting From the Future, which is a digital marketing agency that is now based in Philadelphia and Los Angeles, but at one point did have offices in Miami.
Oh, awesome. Great to hear. Yeah. Yeah. Great to hear about Philadelphia. I've been there quite a few times, but definitely great to have you on and know about that. So I'm going to ask you a few questions here. Largely these questions were from different communities where I asked if they were able to talk to a mentor within their space. What would they ask them? And one of the big set of questions was agency work related type. And one of the biggest ones was, how can you spot red flags early for, say, a high maintenance client? Whether they're going to be troublesome, what you've experienced, just so people can kind of catch early that, hey, this client might be an issue.
Yep. I think the biggest warning flags up front can usually be spotted throughout the sales process. Communication style. And what I'll describe as entitlement or a sense of entitlement to communication is usually the biggest red flag. So if you're going through the sales process and you're getting emails, between scheduled calls, and I've had clients like text or prospects text before, which is probably the biggest red flag. So I think, if you are at least clear in setting communication expectations and communication boundaries early on, which every freelancer, consultant, agency owner should, those are the biggest, I think, the red flags. The one that wasn't a red flag but helped me realize that the communication style was a red flag was in a previous version of FTF, where we used to bring all of our clients into Slack, and every client had their own dedicated Slack channel. And it took about 2 months to realize that, we were giving the clients so much access to our team that it was eroding all of the performance aspects of it, and was just causing so much context switching and distraction that it was actually becoming a major issue. Ultimately ended up having to kick all of the clients out of Slack, and centralize all communication just in our task management PM tool.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that can definitely be a problem with Slack, and I've definitely heard from other people about the communication too. One of the ones that I heard that kind of blew me away was the clients that want to text you at like 2 a.m. and they're not doing it to get it off their chest so they forget about it. They're doing it because they actually expect you to be up either at some absurd hour or on the weekends. So yeah, that's also definitely great to hear.
I also think one of the biggest career fails client fails I've had on the agency side was actually, we were working with a client and I didn't spend the time up front to do the due diligence through the sales process to understand, to gain an understanding that they had an understanding of implementation and what it was going to take to execute on, all of the SEO work that we were doing. And so what ended up happening was we got into month one, we do, the audit, we go through all the keyword research, we're putting a content strategy together, and, a deployment schedule for how that content strategy would get rolled out, and delivered it to them, in the end of month one, beginning of month two. 30 days go by, we're checking back in, we're like, hey, what's going on? And the client, in that check-in call toward the end of month two, the client comes on, they're like, when should we expect to see our traffic going up? We're not seeing any changes with the keyword rankings. And I remember feeling sort of flabbergasted on the call, and sort of having to stop and deadpan look at the client and ask them, like, wait, have you implemented anything yet? Like, we didn't realize that any of the implementation was done because they had negotiated out of the contract the implementation. So like we had scoped that in all the time to build the pages and do the on-page optimization and add the internal links and build navigational components and do the actual implementation. And they were like, oh, we've got developers, we can do it. The problem was the handoff from our team to their team. They never actually got the scope slated and expected us to set it all up. So it was ultimately a giant breakdown in expectations, but it was because I didn't learn to ask the right questions up front. Like I didn't understand how to gauge a client's level of understanding and sophistication when it comes to implementation. And because of it, there was misset expectations. And it ultimately led to them threatening to sue. And it's the only time I've ever given a client their money back. It was just like, here's all of your money back. I'm not going to swear on your podcast, but go the F away. Now that was the end of that relationship. Glad to say, I mean, it was a shitty lesson to learn. And I swore anyway, look at that. But it was an important lesson. But it's the same thing though. Like I would always rather, just from a resource perspective too, I would always rather hire somebody that's made a catastrophic mistake, hopefully not while working for me, but like, I don't want to hire a developer that hasn't deleted a production database. Like I want somebody who has crapped their pants for, a full workday, because they're not going to make those kinds of mistakes again. And I think the same goes with selling agency services. You're going to make mistakes. We're all going to make catastrophic mistakes. As long as nobody gets hurt, and hopefully you're able to get that database back that you deleted. Their mistakes, as long as you make them once and don't make them again, I think it's okay for all of us to have these sort of squabbles throughout the agency journey.
Yeah. Well, as far as telling clients to go away, so I'm assuming based on that you don't have a problem that if there's an overbearing client that you can easily let them go, or do you maybe implement something like a 3-strike rule? I mean, do you have anything that's kind of set up that says once you've crossed this path, it's easy to let you go?
Yeah. So I mean, I subscribe to the belief system that that your 10%, the 10% bottom clients, and so we have our account managers score clients every month. They're doing it weekly within their individual project teams, just, hot, medium, cold. A hot client is like, all right, this person is upset. Something's going like they need attention. Cold is like maybe they haven't been engaged in a while. It's nothing to worry about there. And then you've got just sort of normal status quo. And then monthly, they're scoring these clients and bringing them to the management meetings, and they get reviewed in the board. And the reason that we're constantly scoring clients is it's not just like, where does this client pay on the scale of revenue? It's how are they good to work with? Are we seeing growth? Are they going to be a case study? Are they going to be a referral? Because you need to be growing your agency on top of great clients. And anybody that's ever had a great client can tell you, one great client is worth 10 mediocre ones, not even bad clients. You find those great clients, and they are out there, and you need to bend over backwards to deliver, because you can build an entire agency. You can build a great lifestyle business, or, an exit for yourself off the backs of great clients. So with that though, is we, at the end of every year, we chop, the bottom 10%, and it could be scored for, they're on super old prices and they don't have the budget to go roll with us into our new pricing. Or maybe they're on the lower price spectrum, or they're high on the price spectrum, but they're a nightmare. And they're constantly changing team members internally. They have culture problems there, and they can't keep points of contact, and that's causing us issues because we're constantly having to re-onboard. Or they're not implementing fast enough, or we're just not able to deliver the results they need at the budget that they have. And so we're not a great fit. But we I don't want to keep them on and have 10 months later have them be upset that the growth isn't where they need it to be, because they want to rank number one for credit cards for bad credit. The other thing that I didn't know when I got into the whole agency thing, and I've been taught by one of my board members who's become one of my agency mentors, is that 70% of your growth every year as an agency should come from your existing clients. And that, I think that most people hear that and they're like, what? It sort of blows your mind if you're like, wait a second, how am I going to grow the agency if only 30% of my growth is supposed to come from new business? That's exactly it. If you've got clients that you can't grow into bigger client relationships, you can't offer additional services, you can't embed with and grow your team around, they're probably not the right clients for you, unless you want a job for the rest of your life. And being an agency owner, most people who start out in a freelance consultant role that deliver good work and keep the communications open, you get to that $30,000 to $50,000 a month, reoccurring client revenue piece. And either you are working your ass off for that $500,000 a year in revenue, and maybe you're pulling down 200 of it, or you're reaching a point where it's like, I need to put infrastructure in around me. I need to start building my team. And you can only begin to make hires again and be able to sleep at night if you've got clients that you know are going to stick around.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually great, because what you said about the hires, that actually gets me into the next question, which is when is it right for you to make a hire? And usually this question comes from somebody that they're in an agency, it's just themselves basically, and they're trying to grow. The question was actually phrased to me at what revenue level, and I kind of had to step back and say, well, it's not really about revenue. It's lots of things that go on. But for you, when was it right? What size company? What problems did it come down to when you finally made your first hire?
So the story of FTF is a weird one because it was a side hustle, right? I started that company while I was at Traffic Safety Store. So I had a full-time job, great salary, everything. I didn't need the money. So I was able to invest every dollar that came in the team. And because I had a full-time job, I had to. So the very first thing I did when KicksUSA.com signed on as our first client was like, all right, 100% of that money is going to go to hiring an operations person so I can continue to bring more deals in, and they'll figure out how to find contractors and hire contractors. And one set of mistakes that I did on hiring very early that I coach all of my clients against doing is I made full-time hires way too soon. Not the ops person. I believe the first hire any agency owner should make, if you're a good sales, like if you're the person who usually, as the solo practitioner, you're the person doing the sales, doing the strategy, doing the work, presenting to the clients, that's great. If you are able to be the strategist and do the sales, that's what you need to be doing and being focused on. That means you can't be running operations. You can't be handling project plans, client communications, billing, chasing. You need somebody else to do that. That is a great first hire, and usually it can be part-time. In terms of the practitioners, though, that's where I made the mistake of hiring SEOs to train up. I had an apprenticeship program that worked really well, but I very quickly and egotistically back then, I can honestly say now, as soon as I had 2 or 3 apprentices that went well and I brought those people sort of into the fold, it was like, okay, now we got that program, so I can go out and start making hires. And the first, I want to say 3 people I hired as entry-level SEO, support roles that didn't go through the apprentice program were all flops. It was a waste of money. It ate up my salary cap, and it didn't actually give me any real flexibility. What I would have done now in retrospect is I would have spent more time developing the SOPs and breaking the SOPs apart as much as I possibly could to find external resources, contractors that I could train, ideally building a little bit of redundancy where I know if I need a keyword matrix built, I've got 3 people that can do that. I know if I need a content audit done, I've got these 2 contractors that can do that. And they are this cost, and they're available this many hours per week. This is their average turnaround time, and this is how much notice they need in order to hit those turnaround time deadlines. That's all easy stuff to figure out with some relatively low cost, low business risk testing. You build that resource pool up, and then if you have a tool for managing your resource load, it can be something as simple as a spreadsheet. I'm actually happy to give you the static Google Sheet version of the resource manager that we still use at FTF today. We have an automated version of it, but it's the same sheet. I'm happy to give you a version to give away to anybody who's listening to this who wants it. As long as you're tightly managing that resource pool, to your point, you'll know as soon as you need to hire. It's not a magic revenue number. Again, I like to say somewhere in that 30 to 50 grand per year if you're in the US, and depending on where you live and your cost of living, it could certainly be way less than that and way more than that. I definitely know solo practitioners that are somehow managing 100 grand a month without a lot of infrastructure. They just work all the time. And that's fine if that's you. That's not me. So I'm a big fan of build it up, break it apart as much as possible, and then build redundancy. Because that's the other thing too, is if you have a lot of full-time hires and you pile a lot of your resource dependency onto just a few full-time people, and those people leave at any point in time, not only do they have a tendency to become bottlenecks if you've got too much process or deliverable reliance on a single resource, but when those people leave, you're up shit's creek without a paddle at that point. And then you're struggling to try to figure out how you cross-train other folks, or you make a replacement hire. And I will tell you, it is a fantastic time right now to be a senior SEO in the open market, and it's a horrible time to try to hire for senior SEOs in the open market.
Definitely. Yeah, and I like that early into this question that you basically said that you started from the very beginning, that you were full-time employed, and then you got your client, and then you hired an operations person. So right out the bat, I kind of feel the same way. If you're going to start something, just go ahead and do it off the bat, even if it's part-time or some VA that you can lean on to
Yeah.
heavily. But yeah, definitely doing it from the get-go. And then the resource, yeah, we can definitely put it, a link into the comment section. So
Just
we'll
a free
definitely
sheet.
do that.
You guys can just, I'll set it up so you can just make a copy. Like they'll be able to do the, one-click copy
Oh
thing.
yeah.
But that was game changing, man. Like I didn't, when I started my first agency in 2007, that we crash landed, sold to Dietz and Watson, got real lucky. That was definitely, it was like a golden parachute, because it was just getting to a place where I was gonna have to start managing my 5 employees and managing the resources to do them. And at 23, 24 years old, I had no idea what resource management was or utilization planning. And we would have fallen apart. That company would have fallen apart. Like,
Yeah.
4 out of 5 agencies fail, like can't make it to 5 years. And 4 out of 5 agencies that make it past 5 years never make it over $3 million a year in revenue. And we were at like Automni, that agency was absolutely going to fall victim to one, if not both of those fates. We just got lucky that we happened to build a crappy CMS on CodeIgniter that somebody wanted.
Yeah. Okay. Well, speaking about tools, as far as that resource and the CMS that you actually brought up, another question was, what are the top tools that you use in your agency? They don't necessarily have to be SEO related. Maybe they're project management, or there's something else that's more business. But if there was 3 tools that you had to have, what would be the top 3 tools?
It would be a PM tool. There is no right answer, I've learned. It doesn't matter if you want Asana, ClickUp, Monday. It really does not actually fucking matter. If you've got a process for managing your resources, and then you have somebody who's doing the production load, as long as you've got a schedule for how your production calendar needs to be planned, managed, and executed on, they're all the same thing. They all, like, some of them are nice because they've got time tracking built in, but like Asana's integration with Evernote is beautiful. We used that for a while up until the Plush acquisition, and now we're moving over to ClickUp, which is, and again, like at this point, that's why I say I don't care. I know our process works. I don't care what tool we're in. The more sophisticated tools that have like really smart resource management built in, like Workamajig, dumbest name, worst branding ever, but incredible tool. Maven Link is another one. Again, it's more enterprise. It's like $65 per user per month, so it is expensive, but it does these big things. And if you get, as soon as you're at 40, 50 people, you unfortunately start needing to look at much more sophisticated resource planning tools. Time tracking is the biggest one again. So resource, some PM tool, doesn't matter which one. If it has time tracking, then you don't have to have a separate tool. Evernote is a fantastic time tracking tool that has a lot of the types of canned reports that you need as an agency owner. So like billability, which I think a lot of agency owners don't even know what that term means. So just for anybody who doesn't know what billability means, because it is the most crucial thing in a business where you're trading time for money. Even if you're now if you're like, oh, Nick, but we don't sell hourly. Yes, you do. We're all humans. We live on the earth. The earth operates based on time, and there's only so much time in every day, and your people and the number of hours you have available from the number of people only have so many hours to do that work. So even if you don't sell hourly, you still need to manage everybody needs to track their time. You need to know how much time it takes, so you know how much it actually costs you to deliver on that deliverable, so you can set a minimum profit margin. It's all just the unit economics, right? But you can't do this unless you track time, unless you track all of your time. So time tracking, PM. I'm not going to go on the giant laundry list of all the SEO tools. Anybody listening to this is going to be familiar with all of them already. They're probably already on Builder Society. They're already on Reddit. They're already on Twitter. They know about all those tools. And then the other one is just, again, is like a resource management tool, and it can be Google Sheets. It can be really, really simple, but what most folks don't do, and I didn't do until I was shown how to do it, is to really think through how to standardize their services. And even if you don't have to think of it like a product, but you still need to understand, like, this deliverable that we're going to produce has these tasks, and these tasks should take this long. So you're able to understand where all the planning falls in. And you also don't get yourself into a jam where you've oversold. Like I've seen agencies do this as well. Like they have a great pipeline. There's a big windfall of work that sort of all closes all at once, unexpectedly. And then they've sold 500 hours of production work the next month. and they only have 320 hours available to them between them and maxing out all of their resources. So also being able to understand, like looking at your resources from a resource pool perspective, which is, what are my departments? How many resources do I have available in that department? What's the total number of resources that I have in terms of like hours? So how many hours do I have to sell for SEO, for link building, for project management? That also that leads me right into the number one mantra that I would challenge every agency owner on, which is if you're not charging for project management, like if it's not in your SOW as a line item and you're not tracking against it and billing against it, you are missing the boat.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. Because I know that people more than likely, the inexperienced agency owners, they're definitely not tracking that or adding that in as a line.
Yeah, it's the worst part. If they're not, it's like, not tracking, it's even scarier. Because it's like, oh, we have 10 hours for this client, and so like you have in your production schedule, you've got all of your billable hours for the month. And you're like, oh, so what are those 10 hours? Oh, those 10 hours are going to all be going into SEO for the month. It's just it's content refreshes and on page. It's like, well, what about all the client communications and the content briefs that have to go into actually executing on that, and the keyword research that have to go into the content briefs? And they're like, oh yeah, that's all in the 10 hours, but how much time does it take you with when you include all the communication with the clients and the reporting, the analytics and reporting, and actually doing all that on-page work? Let me go back and record. I'll record that this month. I didn't last month. Oh, I recorded it this month. Well, how many hours was it? It was 28. Yeah. How many did you bill the client for? 10. Like how much money did you just cost yourself?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, speaking about clients and clients eating up time and hours and windfalls, a lot of people are really eager to know the best way to find clients. And it's not really like a general question like that. A lot of them were really detailed, and they were asking things like, should I be stalking people on LinkedIn and sending them a lead magnet? Should I be uploading YouTube videos that are value adds? And while the answer might be, well, all of that's great, or maybe all of it's useless, they're really looking at the best way. Like in your experience, what do you think has been the number one way that you've been able to get clients, whether it was the quantity of clients or the quality or just being able to close them, the best that you've been able to do and look at?
I mean, if I was starting a brand new agency today from nothing, I would find a fast growing hyper niche that is anticipated to be around in 10 years. So McKinsey and Company just put out a research study last month that's just starting to really pick up some traction, that had a statistic that was terrifying. No, I was going to say in a good way. I mean, it is good in a lot of senses, but it's still just really fucking scary. I mean, maybe if you haven't heard this yet, you have to like brace yourself, because like it takes a minute to even like process it. And that is that an estimated 85% of all jobs globally in 2030 have not been invented yet.
Oh, wow.
That blows my mind. And it's all based on a tremendous amount of research that they've done in data collection. And you look at the industries where automation, like robots are coming to take your jobs. Absolutely. Customer service, like any like non-specialized job, like they are going away first. And then it's going to follow into like the medical staff account support jobs. They're going away next. And then it'll be direct to consumer sales support. Like at the bottom rung, you're left with specialist, highly technical jobs, and honestly, health and wellness is the area that's expected to grow the most exponentially in terms of job growth and job creation in the next 10 years. Wow. So you consider all of that. And so I would personally, I've thought about it, if I was going to start from square one right now, I would probably create an agency that only worked with cybersecurity companies. They're definitely going to be around in 10 years. And the nice part about going hyper niche is you don't have to find the clients. If you go hyper niche, you're able to drill in on really, really specific pain with really, really specific nomenclature. And when you do that, you can create what I call trust offers, very small offers. Ideally, you're paid for them, but it's a low cost, $500,000, and it's a strategic deliverable. It's a chance for you to get paid to do what you do best and provide direction in the form of a roadmap that then hopefully you get hired to execute on. It's the easiest way to sell agency services, but it's really, it doesn't work if you're out there and your work is being seen as a commodity. And the easiest way to change that perception of commoditization of your services is to not go down to it's not like, oh, we only work with B2B SaaS companies, or we only work with B2B SaaS companies that cater up to tech. Like I'm saying, go even deeper than that. Like, nope, just cyber. Like I only want cybersecurity offerings in B2B SaaS. So only companies that offer, IoT tracking and security. Like go all the way in, and then understand the nomenclature. Like one of my favorite branding exercise recently was one of my agency clients has a marketing agency, and they're sort of stuck at, whatever, we'll call it 5 million a year in turnover, and they really want to get to 10. And looking at it, it's like, well, you're all like, you guys do all these things that everybody else does, and you've won all these awards, and you've got great case studies, but there's nothing that makes you any different from anybody else. So we looked at the case studies and realized that like they had some extreme results in the online casino world. Like 5 of their best case studies were in online casinos. Like awesome, art. So we're going to go create a sub brand. Like we're going to create a new brand, separate, arm's length from your brand, and it's just going to be focused on working with online casinos. And we started having conversations with player acquisition managers and digital marketing managers at these online casinos and online affiliates, and starting to talk to them. And these terms that none of them would say, like, this is what I want, started to come out though. And as we were having these conversations, we started to put patterns of language together. And what we realized was the metric that these people are all being held beholden to, regardless of what their role is, the decision maker for my client to sell into, they're all beholden to what is called first-time depositors, or FTDs. And the number one metric that they're being asked about from their leadership around FTDs is, what's their CPA? How cheap are they able to acquire first-time depositors? And there's like sort of this smack in the face moment where it's like, oh, cool. Like there's your brand value proposition as a digital PR agency that only does work with online casinos. Your job is to deliver the most FTDs at the lowest CPAs possible. And suddenly, when that is your market messaging, it doesn't mean anything to anybody except the people it means everything to. And when anybody in that market sees, delivering the most FTDs for the lowest CPAs possible, that speaks to their exact language. Like that would be the equivalent of you guys seeing an offering where it's like, hey, do you have a tool that delivers the most intuitive UI for tracking SERP results and giving insights on keyword research? You'd be like, yeah, that's me exactly. There's no sales process. It's just, oh, that's exactly me. I am that person. I have that problem. It's oversimplification, but like creating these trust offers that are very, very specific for like a very specific type of pain for a very specific type of audience. I think a lot of agency owners get worried they're going to pigeonhole themselves into a total addressable market that's too small. And what you don't realize is you'll make more money faster because you suddenly don't have competitors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see a lot of people, and it's common in all industries, agency owners, SaaS tools, just even like landscapers, maybe that I might see a marketing message for. They're all really bland, vanilla.
Yep.
It's okay. I don't know what differentiates you from somebody else. Why should I even pick you? And if you can tell me specifically what you're going to do, and you can actually speak my language, then I'm going to have more confidence that you are the right pick. And even at most times, I'll probably pay more for it because I'll feel more confident. So
that's the other thing too, is as a specialist agency, you can usually charge higher prices. And the best part about it is your margins are going to be better, not because your prices are necessarily higher, but because you can then begin to invest in tools and infrastructure and playbooks that are more repeatable. Like if you only do work with B2B SaaS companies, if you're an agency that just works with B2B like tech SaaS companies, then like we have a playbook for integrations, we have a playbook for versus pages and listicles. Like we know that these 6 strategies work in this space. So like we can adapt, 80% of our playbook is going to be the same every time. So it's going to cut down on all the research and the onboarding and even the sales process.
Exactly. Well, that's definitely great. All good information. Now we got time to dig into what I call personal. So these are basically non-agency, non-work related questions. They might overlap. But as far as thinking about people that maybe you follow or people that you look up to, maybe your marketing heroes, or it's in business potentially, what 2 things have you learned from people that you follow or people that you look up to that have impacted you the most, whether in your career or in your business, or just even personally?
Biggest impact ever in my life was when was probably from Dan Martell when I was in his coaching program in 2017. And he was the person that first described, using your calendar as a weapon, and introduced the idea of block scheduling, and then, being beholden to your calendar, essentially, to the extent where if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. And everybody in my life knows that now. My friends, my family, my team members, my partner, everybody. They know that my calendar rules everything. And because of it, there's a place for everything, and everything is always in its place. And I get done everything I want to get done every week. And that's the number one question I get when I get asked personal questions. It's like, how do you have time for all this? Like, I make time for all of it. I literally just make the time, put it in my calendar, and then have the conviction to stick to my calendar. It's that fucking simple.
Yeah.
So that was easily the most life-changing thing. Like when I really took that seriously and implemented that. And then I think the second one was, and this has nothing to do with business, but I was out at an event, it was like over a year ago at this point. It was during COVID, so which is funny enough. It was a very small little event, like 30 people, on Allen's Lake, right outside Boulder, Colorado. And I met one of the founders of a community called Baby Bathwater. And we were out in his boat, and he was just like, it was one of those, we were having a moment, cruising around this lake. And he was like, what is it that drives you? Like, what is it that you look for? And I was like, I just want to find moments that sort of, like take my breath away. Like that's constantly what I'm in search for, I guess. It's like, I want to find that next experience that like amazes me. And he's the one who sort of took that and put it into words for me, which was like, it was awe. He's like your driving force as a person is like, you're in constant pursuit of awe. And that's the best way I've ever heard that put. And that was something that he was like, me too, man. Like that was the thing that we shared, but like realizing that, like that sort of self-awareness that I'm now exploring with my newest performance coach, is like a big driving force, I think, in understanding like who I am and what drives me, and how I should be spending my time if I want to feel fulfilled.
Yeah, good. Well, the next answer or question, I'm sorry. The reason why I stumbled on answer was you've already gave this answer, I think. But the next question was, if you had to start over, what would your first 90 days look like? And I feel like you've kind of answered that already. But did you have anything else that you maybe wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I can get super tactical if you want. Like I'd probably find, the 10 most relevant keywords around doing marketing for cybersecurity, and create, baseline educational posts on those on a blog, where the homepage of that blog is essentially just an agency landing page talking about the services. I would create 3 or 4 core deliverables, positioned specifically for that audience in the way that they ask questions and the way that they sell into their clients. I'd build a list of probably, the top 100 target accounts that I would want to not stalk, but make sure like I got in front of. I still love cold email. I think if you have the right offer to the right person, email, the email open and engagement rates are like 30 times that of Facebook at this point. Like email, like, the return of snail mail, happened, I don't know, I'd say 3 years ago now. And now enough companies have realized that snail mail was working again, that it no longer works. And I'm getting massive amounts of junk mail again. But in that same respect, like all these messaging platforms exploded, and like Telegram's great, and Discord's great, and Signal's great. But like, we're coming back now, like email actually is working. Like people have unsubscribed to so much shit that like the right, even if it's cold, the right email at the right time, with the right offer still works. Being able to test those offers. So like a tool like GrowBots is a really great platform if you're doing B2B selling and you want to do a lot of like lean testing of email messaging and email offers. But yeah, really big fan of lots of little offers that you can introduce via more top of funnel education. But I don't think you need to go ham. Like you don't need 100,000 words of content to start signing contracts as an agency provider. You do need products though. Like you need to have a clear service offering. And hopefully present that service offering in a way that's compelling. That's the other thing too, is I feel like the average agency owner, that I talk to, I'm like, hey, like show me, like pitch me, like show me your most recent proposal. They're terrible. It's like a 5-page Word document with just a smattering of text on it, and then one big number at the bottom that's like this many hours for this much money per month. I look at it, I'm like, I wouldn't buy that. Like I like you and trust you. I wouldn't buy that. Like, would you really buy that? like just actually putting yourself in the place of your customers to think through the client experience. Like I have no doubt that in 90 days, I could probably sign 50 grand in work, 50 grand in recurring client work in an industry that I have no experience in, because the playbook is the same for building agencies. It's the same formula every time. You just have to find the audience and the offer and build the practice area. I'm screwing around with the idea of starting an NFT marketing agency right now, because why not?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Hot industry for sure. What kind of problems keep you up at night? And again, it doesn't have to be personal, but like if there was something that even you at your stage, what kind of problems keep you up at night that you're always thinking about and trying to solve?
Talent's the number one thing. You get to a place where, especially at an agency, let's say you've got some incredible talent and you're coming up on like 5-6 years, like that, that's usually the leap to in-house. People are burnt out on agency life, and the smartest, best in-house teams know that they should be hiring from, hotshot agencies, because those people, like, the best part about working in agencies, you're exposed to all these different businesses and all these different business models and types of websites and marketing strategies and industries and people. And like that sort of like crash course into your professional careers is the most useful. Like I would always hire somebody who's been in an agency over somebody who's only been in-house, just for that like T-shape, like that skill set. But the problem there is, again, I get worried about, like, I've got some people that I've invested in that are incredible. Like I would hate to lose them, which is part of the reason that the venture studio like became what it is. Cause it was like, what's the next step? Like, what do I do for folks that outgrow FTF? It's like, well, I want FTF to be an on-ramp, to being senior marketers or partners, CEOs in these other companies. So I now use it as I look at FTF as a talent incubator, which is like, as folks sort of grow out of that, they can move into these other projects, and it's worked. One of my very first apprentices, Lee McKenzie, is still there. He still works on a couple key accounts as the lead strategist, but he's operating our other 3 businesses that we've started over the years, because he was on year 6 of agency life, and that's normal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good insight, because I don't think a lot of people really look at it as, their businesses can leverage each other, let alone move talent around as well. So that's definitely
the thing, right? It's like, you just want that, like, you want to keep working with that person. It's just like that's the ultimate thing. Coming back to like Ben Franklin, right? Like I hire smart. So Steve Jobs was the one who said, I hire smart people so they can tell me what to do. And then Ben Franklin was the one that had said, hire the smartest people you can, it was hire the smartest people you can and then get out of their way.
Yeah.
It's both the same mindset though, right? Which is like, if I find great people, I don't care what company they're at or even their role. Like like finding and holding on to A players, I think is the number one thing that anybody who wants to build anything significant needs to be obsessed with.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. So this question that came in was people that are maybe prone or scared of getting complacent. So they're basically asking, how do you avoid getting too lazy? The full question was, how do you cultivate a sense of growth mind, when you're okay and don't necessarily need to do more? And I kind of look at it as, well, if you're a lazy person or have low goals, I really don't know if there is much to really help you. But I guess I look at it as, have you ever got to a point where you said, hey, I'm good, and maybe you started sleeping in late, and then you realized that wasn't for you, that you still want to push forward, still not want to be lazy, not be complacent? Do you have any advice there?
My whole thing is my number, right? Like I'm money motivated. Not everybody is. I very much am. I think being able to recognize that and just, being transparent with yourself. Like if money doesn't motivate you, then that's totally fine. Maybe you're already on the other side of the fulcrum. So it's super funny, right? Like in our younger years, we spend all of our time chasing money. And then as soon as like we get over this threshold, and it's different for everybody, you end up getting to some place in your life where you're willing to trade all of your money to get the time back. And I think understanding where you sort of fit on that spectrum is a big part. Like I believe that when I hit my number, like my number is like, I want to make this much money per month. I'm a cash flow junkie, so I care way more about building recurring streams of revenue as opposed to like exits. Like I would rather have $1 million a month than $100 million exit. That sounds crazy to most people. I think I can do way more with $1 million a month in terms of leverage than I could do with one big lump sum of $100 million, where I'd probably end up buying a stupid boat and a bunch of big properties anyway. Like, I don't think I would actually make as sophisticated and as intelligent of investments as I would if it was all just based on recurring cash flow. Plus, there's the compounding effect. Anyway, if you're somebody who is not money motivated and you have built a lifestyle business that you're good with, and you're worried that you're going to get complacent and that lifestyle business may fall into disrepair, and you may begin to, like, you may have to go back to work more hours, and you may have to start the grind like you did initially to build that lifestyle business in the first place, you need to bring on a partner. Just being willing to, recognize your faults. Like, maybe it's not even you're lazy, it's just you want to make sure that the company stays where it's at, even if you're completely fine with where it's at.
Yeah.
But you are not giving it the attention, or you don't have the desire, like the personal desire to keep running that company. Like, bring somebody in that does. And that's the thing that I think is a little crazy is when I talk to owners of lifestyle businesses, which is usually like solopreneurs that are running a micro SaaS that does like $1 million a year, right? They're pulling down 700 grand a year before taxes. They've got 2 team members that are, maybe one full-time developer and a part-time support and customer service person. They're living a great life, but they're worried that, if they don't keep up with the Joneses in terms of features and general feedback, and they don't keep that customer base happy, that could shrink into a place where, they've lost this sort of beautiful lifestyle nest egg they built for themselves. Be willing to take 100 grand of your 700 grand and pay somebody to be the person that you don't want to be. Like, it's like, hire, like, as somebody who hired a CEO for their agency, because I got to a place where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be the CEO. I don't like being the face of the company and the owner of the vision for the team. I just want to build the cool shit. I think a lot of it is realizing what you want from life, and potentially, like, I mean, it was a blow to my ego, like the idea of like, oh, like, I'm not, there was a big sort of weird imposter syndrome of like, well, how am I not going to be the CEO of the agency that I started?
Yeah.
As soon as you get over yourself, though, man, life starts.
Yeah, and that's good, because I think a lot of people that maybe get into some kind of lifestyle business, and then they're a digital nomad on top of it, and they're doing all these kind of just like, I don't want to say low income, but they're doing these things that really aren't scalable, because at the end of the day, most of these lifestyle businesses, for a majority of people, come down to just that one person. They're the key employee.
Mm-hmm.
And if they actually take some of that money and hire a CEO, like you mentioned, now you start bridging into, this is an asset that I can actually sell.
Mm-hmm.
As an investor, I don't want to buy anything where it's basically one key employee that is the success of this company. But if that's where somebody is now, they bring in a CEO, maybe they start having that person build out employees and build out SOPs and build out the company. Now that's a sellable asset.
Yeah.
So now you've kind of got this lifestyle business that can translate into something that's actually sellable, that somebody wants to buy because it's an actual business now.
Or you can take a little less money and have somebody else run the business for you, and you can just collect your distributions.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm a numbers guy too. And I'm all about the cash flow, and I do something that's kind of like in the middle almost. And I think this is a topic that a lot of people don't talk about either. Because I have a lot of conversations with people that, should I build something enterprise level, or should I have a lifestyle business? And there's so many pros and cons to each. And I look at it as cash flow too. And I kind of sit in the middle, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I like lifestyle businesses because they're somewhat a little bit more simpler for me, at least. And I can kind of do what I want when I want. But I don't have just one. I actually have like 9 or 10, and that way the cash flow from all of these just keep growing. And as one of these get more stable, maybe I bring in a VA, or I bring in a partner, or I bring in somebody that I know and can trust, and then they help run that as I scale into other ones. So there's also that kind of mix too, especially if you're in the numbers, if you're in the cash flow, but maybe you don't want to have like one company where there's 20, 30, 40 people in it. You still kind of want to have that lifestyle. You can actually have multiple lifestyle businesses, and kind of the way that I position it is one lifestyle business, maybe pays my mortgage. One lifestyle
Yep.
business pays for toys
But it
that
doesn't
I
even have
like
to
to
necessarily
have.
be like a business, right? Like I think that's the other thing that
Yeah.
the idea of multiple lifestyle businesses is I've never actually heard anybody say that before. So I'm glad that you actually called that out and put that out into the universe. But like I just think of it as revenue streams. Like maybe
Oh
you've
yeah.
got this affiliate site, you've got this micro SaaS, you've got this dropship ecom site, you've got a consulting business over here. Like you know what I mean? The idea of compounding revenue streams, especially if you're able to do them in a way where they complement each other. When you're able to build economies of scale where they're all sort of in the same space, or the audience, ideally, I mean, that's the best case scenario, right? Is if you've got an audience that you can continuously resell, from different products or different services within there.
Exactly. So the next question, this is basically the last question. What is the biggest change that you've seen in SEO over the last 3 years? And where do you see it going for the next 3 years?
I mean,
And it doesn't have to be SEO. Like maybe you just want to make it marketing in general, because I know that maybe there's a lot more going
the
on.
biggest shift in SEO has definitely been like EAT, and like how much like all of those like co-citations and like the supplemental signals like that are not links, Google has gotten very good at sort of putting together and scoring. So like just watching the changes to structure for like on-page optimization, and watching like the emergence of content patterns, like almost like the evolution of design patterns into content patterns that are now sort of table stakes for certain types of rankings and certain, query modifiers. That's definitely been the biggest change I've seen, and where I think we're going is in SEO. I don't have a great like I don't have anything fun or exciting there. But in terms of marketing, I think we're only going to see further like democratization, and like brands that are able to build communities, or like tap into emotional patterns within their buying groups and their customer groups that they can then potentially use to design causes or communities that support those causes, is almost we're already seeing it, and I don't see that going away at all. I mean, all of the companies all the brands that we're seeing sustain growth, like direct consumer brands, it's because they've built mind share, usually just from near daily engagement, which you can't get outside of some sense of community. So watching consumer brands begin to invest in developing a culture, not at their company, but a culture for their company from their consumer base, has been sort of fascinating.
Yeah, good insight. So now, yeah, again, thanks for coming on. We're at the end of the show now. So if you want to take a few minutes and tell people how they can reach you, and maybe what possibly you can do for them and help them, you're more than happy to take that time right now.
I spend way too much time on Twitter, at Nick_Eubanks. Like way too much time on there. It's probably the number one spot. Anybody who wants to talk, or ever wants help with SEO, or just to chat anything agency or business, Traffic Think Tank is where I spend most of my like open time, like non-client time. Is that's the community. Again, it is a paid community, full disclosure, but that it's paid, so we keep the riffraff out. And I learn a lot of new stuff. So the people who are doing the in the weeds, in the trenches SEO work, that's where I get to talk to them every week, because it's not me anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's hard to find that information. Everybody's locked up in a group or private.
It's all just, it used to be, it was forums, and then it's like it's all got sucked into all these different communities. It's amazing how much of it still lives in like Skype and Telegram groups though too.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Yeah, well, again, thanks for having us on the show, and that's it. Hey, you just watched another awesome interview about how to level up your digital marketing business Hi, my name is Jason Brown, and I am the inventor of SERP tracking and the co-founder of SERPWoo. And today I want to offer you a 20% bonus if you sign up for a paid SERPWoo plan today. It's instant. There's no code that you need to have, and there's no special link. Sign up today, get that 20% bonus. I started SERPWoo almost a decade ago to help me have an advantage against other SEO professionals to find out what really was working on the first page of Google to rank my specific niche and my specific keywords in my industry. I threw out all the garbage about the vanilla SEO advice to find out what specifically worked in niches that I was building. And SERPWoo has grown in that decade to help 20,000 other digital marketers and companies and agencies to do the same. And if you want to get the same advantage of how to outrank your competitors within your specific industry and not just vanilla garbage SEO advice, take advantage of our 20% offer today by signing up for a paid plan with SERPWoo. Thanks.